Bear down, Chicago Bears. We've got some interesting stuff happening. We've got some new hires. It looks like the offense has now filled out their coaching staff completely. We had a new offensive line coach allegedly coming to Chicago today, and every single member of this coaching staff has had success or has made it to a Super Bowl. So it would appear that this team is really starting to coalesce into a much better coached team, if you will. And that would be an incredible, incredible thing if this plays out to its best advantage. And guys, make sure if you like this content and you like this show, try to provide you with the best content every day at 9:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. And we'll be doing this going forward, maybe for an hour. And today I asked what I thought was a little bit of a controversial question. If you are a fan of Walter Payton, then you don't know, and we don't know, obviously, what he would do. The best thing that we could do is look at somebody like his son, Jared Payton, see what Jared Payton thinks, and we know what Jared Payton thinks. He believes in Justin Fields. He thinks that Justin Fields is the guy for Chicago. He's made that clear many times over. But what I did was I went to Chatgpt, and today I asked this question, and I will tell you guys exactly the question so that you can see it on screen. Tell me what you think Walter Payton would have said if he were alive today about whether the Chicago Bears should keep Justin Fields at quarterback or move on and take Caleb Williams. And this is not an unlocked Chat GPT. It is the latest version of Chat GPT, but it's not completely unlocked. So it's very difficult for uh, a real opinion. I might have asked Grok and gotten a different answer. Grok seems to have no chill, if you will. But we went with ChatGPT for this purpose, and it says, as an AI, it cannot accurately predict what Walter Payton would say about a specific situation, especially one in a continually evolving field like football. However, based on his legacy and values, Payton was known for his commitment to excellence, teamwork, and determination. He might emphasize the importance of patience and development in young quarterbacks like Justin Fields, recognizing that it often takes time for quarterbacks to fully develop and reach their potential in the NFL. Peyton might also highlight the values of continuity and stability within a team, suggesting that the Bears should focus on supporting and developing Fields rather than hastily moving on to another option like Caleb Williams. Ultimately, Peyton might advocate for the Bears to carefully evaluate their options, consider the long term implications for the team's success, rather than making impulsive decisions based on short term performance or speculation. So let me know what you think in the comment section. That's a little bit of a canned response for the whole situation here. And make sure you hit the like button on your way in. Helps push me up in the algorithm. But it looks like to me that this really kind of checks out. It would be my understanding, it would be my belief that Walter Payton believed in the values of continuity, excellence, teamwork, determination, and I believe that there's almost to a man he stood by every single person on the Chicago Bears at one time or another, and defended their job and what they did, or if they underperformed, what they were doing to the benefit of the team, ultimately ending that in a Super Bowl victory by one of the greatest teams that you had ever seen, and that was the 1985 Chicago Bears, a team that we were going to be talking about pretty soon. I don't want to talk about them right now because it feels like maybe, just maybe, that wouldn't work um, very well in the long term. But again, tell me in the comment section if you think that that was uh, the answer that you were expecting. And then let's move on, by the way, to the news right now. Courtney Cronin, guys, at this point, you know her. I don't know that anybody believes what she says anymore. I don't know that anybody is really on the Courtney train, if you will, when it comes down to it, because she makes a lot of um, uh, she makes a lot of decisions when she's explaining things anymore. So it's a little bit odd when I get that moment where I'm reading from Courtney Cronin, and she seems really checked out, not understanding exactly what is going on sometimes. Although a reporter, I guess. So, in the latest Bears Banter podcast, Courtney had been a phenomenal addition to the Chicago Bears beat the last couple of years, and she stopped to discuss a variety of topics. She talked about the AFC and NFC championship games, what Chicago Bears could learn from that. She discussed Maddie and Bleeves' job security, as well as the hires of Shane Waldron and Eric Washington. Of course, she also discussed the quarterback situation and the number one pick in the NFL draft. Now, this is where it gets weird, okay? most of the most of except for some conversation about trading with the Falcons for the number one pick and moving down. Most people have kind of locked in on the fact that the best option for the Chicago Bears was to trade down to the number 2 or number 3 spot, knowing that the Arizona Cardinals at number 4 are 100% going to take Marvin Harrison Jr., and that it is at this point almost a no brainer. So she talks about several Bears fans that want Chicago to stick with Justin Fields have had plans for the Bears to trade the number one pick for a haul and then select Marvin Harrison with the pick. Is that a realistic option? And she says, I think Marvin Harrison is long gone in a situation where the Bears trade back from 1. Every mock you see has him gone by 4 to Arizona. He should be the first non-quarterback off the board. I think a more likely scenario for the Bears is a Rome Odunze, somebody like that, before the top 10 is over. And my question would be, how does she not understand? And by the way, a lot of you just came in. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in. Helps support the channel, helps me trend in the algorithm. And I appreciate it so much. And thank you so much for that. But how is she missing? Is the question here. How does she miss the fact that you could trade to the Washington Commanders so that they could pick Caleb Williams? Now, the Washington Commanders, by the way, would not be the preferred method because they're not incentivized in this situation to make a move. Their competitor in the draft right now, assuming that they want the same positions, is going to be the New England Patriots. So if the New England Patriots are the prohibitive favorite when it comes to a trade, because 100% that they need a quarterback, that they would be willing to jump the Washington Commanders, that they would most likely prefer Caleb Williams over Jaden Daniels or Drake May. So you really get that sense and that feeling that you have leverage with the Patriots, and that the Patriots would probably give you something of a haul to fix their quarterback situation, especially with Bill Belichick being gone. They're going to want to start to rebuild around a new quarterback. So you really feel like you're locked in on that. And then that gives you the haul that you need, maybe to get the 2025 first round pick that you might need in order to shore up your team, and a second round pick, which the Bears do not have this year. So if you can get that kind of haul and maybe a role player or something like that off of New England for that first pick, then you are in a good situation. So if you're in that good situation, then you take still Marvin Harrison Jr. with the number 3 overall pick, and you've still accomplished what it was you were looking to accomplish. It is wild that she's not seeing that, or at least that's not the discussion that we're having in this regard. It doesn't make very much sense. So, Courtney, as much as people appreciate and admire you as a beat writer, I think you missed one of the most obvious things, and that is the relationship between the Washington Commanders and the New England Patriots, and the need for one of them to try to trade up to make sure that they lock down the quote unquote generational talent that is Caleb Williams. So now, one thing that I will say is there is a chance that I think his name is Sam Howell. There's a chance that the Washington Commanders would stick with Sam Howell, and that they would look to shore it up, just like the Bears are with Marvin Harrison Jr. So, there is a risk associated, a risk involved in everything that we're talking about right now. Most of the drafts, the mocks that you're looking at, do not have the Washington Commanders taking anybody but Drake May, or a couple of them have Jaden Daniels. Nobody's coming outside of the realm of quarterback for Washington Commanders, nor are they for the New England Patriots. So it is very potential here that that's a good dynamic, and hopefully the Bears are going to see that. And I would love to see that trade being made. But again, I'm a Bears fan before I'm anything else, and we'll see how that goes. But moving on, the next thing up is here's where the new exciting. Here's what makes the new Chicago Bears offensive staff truly exciting. Now, while we're on this subject, let's get a list here. This is the brand new list of exactly who is on the staff as of the 31st. Now, there is a new hire, okay, which we're going to talk about over here. That's Jason Houdeling, and he is the assistant offensive line coach. He was the Titans offensive line coach last season. So let's at least consider that as well. So we've got at head coach, we're going to have Matt Eberflus. Then we're going to be looking at Shane Waldron as the offensive coordinator, Chris Morgan as the offensive line coach, Jason Houdeling as the assistant offensive line coach. And I do have to say, it is very important that there's a lot being put into this offensive line right now. There's a lot of effort being put into making sure that this offensive line is working. Then you have Thomas Brown as the passing game coordinator, Kerry Joseph as the quarterbacks coach, Chris Beatty as the receivers coach, Jim Dre at tight ends coach, Chad Morton, running back coach, and Richard Hightower as the special teams coordinator. So that shores up your offensive staff for 2024. I think that's the last hire, Jason Houdeling. And remember, he's being brought in as an assistant offensive line coach, despite being the offensive line. It looks like they're really putting a lot of effort in. And shout out to the Chicago Bears. Look, there's a lot of pieces in place that have felt like they've been missing for the last couple of years. One of them being the offensive line and the amount of protection that they can give. And it looks like they are using their resources right now to bring in Chris Morgan, Jason Houdeling. They're going deep here, guys. They are looking to make sure that no matter what, that offensive line is running stellar. Now, I'm still not a fan. I'm still not a fan of the offensive line. I think obviously Braxton Jones, work in progress. I think let's go look at it real quick on the depth chart and get kind of an idea here of what that looks like. And you can see right here that we're looking at Braxton Jones with a backup of Larry Borum. Really time for Larry Borum to move on, of course. Then you have Tevin Jenkins. Tevin Jenkins has been great. Cody Whitehair, not so good. Dan Feeney. Look, I don't have a problem with Dan Feeney, but Lucas Patrick, time for him to go. Nate Davis. Nate Davis has been okay, but it is possible that we can survive with that. And then Darnell Wright. So maybe the right side of the line has been kind of shored up. So now the focus would be on that left side, and really you're just looking at the tackle position, and then of course the center. So that becomes your biggest functions here. And the question then becomes: is Braxton Jones the answer? Because we've seen flashes of Braxton Jones being that answer. So the other thing to that is when we're talking about this is what is Chris Morgan going to do with these guys right here, Khalil Herbert, Roshan Johnson, and Travis Homer? What we need these guys to step up and be able to, and by the way, multiple situations that we saw, especially in the final game against the Green Bay Packers, which I don't want to dwell on, but I do want to go back to. Multiple different times we saw Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson miss easy blocks. And what we would really like to see is something a little bit better than what we saw there. So, the question becomes, will he block? Will we get the blocking that we need from Khalil Herbert and Roshan Johnson? Because there are going to be moments here where we need that help. Cole Kmet has been willing to block. Mercedes Lewis obviously is one of the best tight end blockers. Robert Tonyan, I think, is gone. He's going to go as an unrestricted free agent. We brought him in. It didn't work out. Make sure you hit the like button on the way in, by the way. Keeps pushing me up in the algorithm and helps me out tremendously. But, I really think that a lot of focus is going to be put on this particular squad by an offensive line coach, Chris Morgan, Jason Howdeling, an assistant offensive line. There's a lot of effort going to be put into the blocking scheme and making sure that this team is ready for success, and that whomever it is, whether it be Justin Fields, as Walter Payton said that he would like in our chat GPT that we did earlier, or Caleb Williams, and they will have the protection that they need in order for them to have the opportunity to thrive in this environment. So looking forward to seeing how this plays out. So this is what it looks like right now. The Chicago Bears have mostly completed the overhaul of the offensive coaching staff. It was a process that left many surprised, mainly for how Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus were able to secure multiple assistants coveted by other teams. Shane Waldron was viewed by many as one of the best available. Kerry Joseph and Chris Beatty soon joined him, and the biggest surprise was Thomas Brown arriving from Carolina as the new passing game coordinator. It is a staff that brings a careful blend of youth and experience. However, the most exciting part about this new group is when you dig into their backgrounds, particularly those who will have a direct tie to the Bears quarterback position. It turns out they all have a track record of elevating the quarterback position, or in the instance of what we just talked about, in shoring up that offensive line. So Shane Waldron, up until 2018, Waldron hadn't spent much time with quarterbacks. His track record centered on receivers, tight ends, and the offensive line. That changed in 2018 when he became the Rams passing game coordinator. What followed was Jared Goff's best season as a pro, throwing for 4,688 yards, 32 touchdowns, 12 interceptions. They reached the Super Bowl that year. Then, upon taking over in Seattle, he got 4,000 yards and 30 touchdowns from Geno Smith. Before jumping to the NFL, Kerry Joseph was a former CFL champion, making his way as a young offensive coordinator at the FCS level. By the way, it should be noted, Kerry Joseph was a defensive back in the NFL before he became a quarterback in the CFL. Unbelievable, that transition. His influence was immediately felt at his alma mater, McNeese State. In 2015, their quarterback threw for, didn't Steve McNair go to McNeese State? Huh. Their quarterback threw for 13 touchdowns and 9 interceptions. His first year as the co-offensive coordinator, that improved to 23-7. That is a tremendous upgrade. The process repeated at Southern Louisiana, where the quarterback threw 17 and 13 the previous year, and then 25 and 12 the year after that. Then you have the passing game coordinator, Thomas Brown. Although known mostly for his exploits as a running backs coach, Brown has achieved things beyond that role. He took over an offensive coordinator for the Miami Hurricanes in 2016. Quarterback Brad Kaya had a disappointing season the previous year, going for 16 and 5. Brown got things straightened out, and he delivered a career best 27 and 7. That was enough for him to get drafted in the 6th round. A year later, he got 31 touchdowns from Malik Rosier. Rozier, maybe? I don't know. If the Bears' objective was to surround a young quarterback with coaches who have elevated the position, they have succeeded. So looking forward to seeing how this all plays out over the next couple of days, weeks, and months. And again, Jason Howdeling being brought along as their assistant offensive line coach. He was the Titans' offensive line coach last year. So it really looks like this team is putting a lot of work into making sure that this is a much better team. Please make sure you hit the like button on the way in, by the way, helps push me up in that algorithm and gets more people in here watching, talking about the Chicago Bears. And the one thing that we all want is to talk about the Chicago Bears and find out what is going on. And look, there are massive, massive moves being made by this team. So we should all be, it is my opinion, we should all be super excited to see where this team is going to go. So far, it looks like we've got 8 likes out of about 30 people watching. So if you could, doesn't cost you anything to hit that like button and help me out to push this up in that algorithm. Thank you so much. But anyway, moving on to the free agency. Now, free agency is obviously a situation in which the Bears are desperate to get some sort of support and help with the worst part, I think, in my opinion, of the team. And that worst part of the team really has been the wide receiving core. Now, you take DJ Moore out and you take Cole Kmet out, and you've really kind of struggled. And it doesn't mean that Darnell Mooney is not a serviceable and good player. It means that we didn't maximize his talent and abilities in the proper way in the Luke Getsy offensive scheme, that we didn't really take advantage of Tyler Scott. And look, I think it's important to point out, we got to say this, okay? If you think that in the throes of the most important parts of the game, when you really need something and you really have to have yardage and you really have to have these plays, right? Robert Tonyan is not the guy you want to be throwing to. Tyler Scott is not the guy that you want to be throwing to. None of these guys. Darnell Mooney, maybe. He's had some flashes, but these are generally not guys that you want to be throwing. Equinemius St. Brown is underachieved dramatically on this team. So you want a better team than what you are seeing as a product on the field. These are not the optimal players that you want to be throwing these game-changing plays to. It must be said, Darnell Mooney dropped. Remember, Darnell Mooney dropped a ball in the end zone to win a game. Remember, Robert Tonyan dropped a surefire touchdown passes. And by the way, this is not to say that the Bears had more drops than any other team in the league. In fact, I think they were fairly good about it. I don't think that they were really bad about it, but it was the timeliness of those drops that caused a lot of problems for the Bears in that long term. I mean, you grab a couple more, you change the dynamic of these games, you win a few games, and suddenly you're an 11-6 team, or you're a 12-5 team. And guess what? All of a sudden, the Packers are not in the playoffs, and you are, and anything can happen when you get there. So, the question is, what do you do to kind of fix this situation? And for starters, the number one thing is Darnell Mooney is not a 2. Darnell Mooney is a slot receiver. His job, the very best of his job, is running. So that's what he's good at, outrunning people. He has to have that opportunity to play that role, and that's not exactly what a 1 or a 2 does. So putting Darnell Mooney in his proper position would work a whole lot better, and not having him subbing out with Tyler Scott at the 2. And then swapping Tyler Scott in the 3 position. Neither one of them are made for that. So, and by the way, it doesn't mean that they couldn't develop. So give them natural positions. And Darnell Mooney goes back to being, 600, 700 yards per season, and he becomes that receiver that you're looking for, that you thought you were going to get, or you thought that you had when you decided way back when that he was going to be your guy. Like you really have to give people an opportunity. You have to give people an opportunity. And it's very difficult. And Echo Bean says they chose Tyler Scott in the 4th round because they saw a good receiver. Yeah, a good 4th round receiver. And look, he didn't make the play. He didn't give the best. Let me rephrase some of this, because I try to say that the player might be the problem. And really, I do think a lot of this came down to coaching mistakes and putting players in a chance to be successful. I don't think that they were given optimal opportunity to do their best. I think that they were underserved by the coaching staff. So I'll just leave it at that. But it could be, by the way, that we need Darnell Mooney. It could be that we end up going with a few of the intangibles, if you will, a few of the situation or intangibles. God damn it! We go with, maybe we grab people, which, by the way, is the article here, which we'll segue into right here. Chicago predicted to pursue 2 of the top 3 free agent wide receivers, and those are Calvin Ridley from the Jacksonville Jaguars. With DJ Moore in place, Chicago could get 2 players who are interchangeable as X receivers up on the line and as good Z receivers with alignment versatility. Both can create separation vertically, but Ridley could take the top off defenses even more and let Moore utilize his high end after the catch abilities at the short and intermediate levels. And then Curtis Samuel. Bears star wideout DJ Moore is a very close friend with Samuel from their shared time with the Carolina Panthers, and perhaps there's something to be taken about Moore's influence in Chicago from the Bears hiring Moore's former wide receiver coach at Maryland, Chris Beatty. Although Beatty has had several college and NFL stops and is certainly a deserving candidate. Samuel offers a skill set the Bears seemingly tried to acquire in drafting Velus Jones Jr. He can carry the ball out of the backfield and also rack up yards after the catch from slot and wide alignments. So looking to bring in somebody or people who are familiar with DJ Moore to optimize the skills of DJ Moore as a secondary option. So a Calvin Ridley or Curtis Samuel expected to be in that list of options of people that we are looking for. So that's where we are. And now let's talk about the draft a little bit. There's a lot of changes, by the way, a lot of weird signals that keep coming out. Former Bears executive Josh Lucas admits trading up for Justin Fields was a draft day decision. So remember, Josh Lucas has gone on record for anybody who will listen to tell you what he thinks. And by the way, please make sure that you're hitting that like button on the way in. We got 11 likes now. Much better job, but we still have about 30 people watching and only 12 total likes. So if you would please, on your way in, hit that like button. Push me up in the algorithm. Helps me out. But anyway, Josh Lucas will talk to anybody about anything over the last couple of years about how they were going through the process, who they were drafting, what they were doing, all of that. And it hasn't been, he's revealed quite a few internal workings with Ryan Pace that they went through. And that, this right here, that the Bears knew they screwed up in the 2017 draft, trading for the number 2 pick for Trubisky. After 4 years in Chicago, his time was up. The Bears took searching for a new one in 2021. But in a surprise move, the Bears traded up in the draft to the number 11 after quarterback Trevor Lawrence, Zach Williams, and Trey Lance went off the board 1, 2, 3. The Bears leapt up to take Justin Fields out of Ohio State. That decision on Justin Fields came down to the day of the draft, says Josh Lucas, our head coach being an offensive head coach at the time, with Coach Nagy extremely involved in that decision, taking in the data points all the way up until the end of the draft, a more comprehensive process. I was very proud. I thought we improved on the process, and we looked who I think was the best quarterback available when we selected. So there. But the important parts to this were also that that could apply to Ryan Poles too. This could all come down to a draft day decision. Nothing that we say or nothing that they say up until we get to draft day could be written in stone. There might be a lot of changes to this team. There might be a lot of changes to what we're doing here very, very shortly. So what we see right now may not be the finished product that we see on the field. So you never know. ESPN predicts that just the Chicago Bears will do with Justin Fields. So ESPN prefaced their piece on Fields with information regarding his situation. Fields has 1 more year left on the Bears with his rookie deal, which will pay him $3.2 million in 2024 and cost $6 million against the cap. A decision on whether to accept or decline his 5th-year option in 2025, and it would cost $22 million, which is not exactly correct because he hasn't made the Pro Bowl, but close enough. With a myriad of different options, from keeping Fields to looking for trade partners, in this scenario, the Raiders offer 2nd and 7th round picks in the 2024 draft for Fields. Champ Kelly, who was their interim GM in the 2023 season, was with the Bears when they drafted Fields. And although Tom Telesco was hired as general manager, Kelly remains with the Las Vegas as assistant GM. Some of this might hinge on how Telesco and whomever the Raiders hires the offensive coordinator view Fields, but it makes financial sense for the Raiders because Fields, a 3-year NFL vet who is younger than rookie Aiden O'Connell, is on his rookie contract and under team control for the next 2 years. Las Vegas needs a long-term answer under center for Antonio Pierce, and it's likely to move on from expensive Jimmy Garoppolo, who didn't work out after signing with the Raiders last offseason. Fields threw for 2,562 yards, 16 touchdowns, and 9 interceptions over 13 games, and he rushed for 657 yards and 4 scores on the ground. So ESPN has the Raiders agreeing to take a deal for the 2nd-round pick, along with a 7th-round pick on Justin Fields, which seems to be about the draft capital that you're getting for Justin Fields right now. Some people are saying he's going to get a 1st-round pick. He's not. It doesn't look like at this point, unless there's a bidding war, and there doesn't appear to be interest in a bidding war for him. So that might be the best that you're going to get. So the Raiders, ESPN has the Raiders agreeing to a deal with their 2nd and 7th pick. That'd be enough for the Bears, according to Courtney Cronin, who says that would be what they would probably be looking for. Ryan Poles has repeatedly mentioned the unique position the Bears find themselves in this offseason with the number one pick, which they didn't earn, by the way, because of their own record, because it's Carolina's pick. The Bears have a chance to insert the top quarterback in the draft class onto a team that has a solid foundation on offense and one of the league's top defenses, which could turn them into a contender by next season. And guys, I keep telling you, and really, the thing is, when Courtney says this, it doesn't matter whether Justin Fields is the guy or Caleb Williams is the guy. The Bears are going to be a contender. So while the Bears may or may not want to move on from Fields, if they get an offer like this one, which allows them to recoup an early second round draft pick, which they do not have, by the way, this year, they would have a difficult time at saying no. So a lot of opportunity and a lot of different positional moves could be made in this. But let's look at another one, because not every draft and not every analysis is doing that. This one says, Alex Shapiro says, the Bears select quarterback, but not Caleb Williams in a new mock draft. I've mocked Caleb Williams to the Bears with the number one pick several times recently, so I'm going to mix it up this time around, given the pre-draft discourse at this point. Remember, we were talking about Jalen Carter as a potential number one pick to the Bears at this time last year. So now they're saying Chicago would take number one Drake May. First of all, no. This to me, look, it doesn't make a whole lot of sense for me. At 6'4", I mean, here's what you could say. The guy's 6'4". He's a little bit taller than Caleb Williams, and that's it. That's it. That's it. I want to go with 3 more inches on his height. You know what I mean? So that appears to be this guy's idea of just changing the draft up, and we'll see how it works out. But number 9, taking Roma Dunze. Now it seems like the analysts have kind of settled on the fact that Malik Neighbors will not be available with this pick, and that the Bears will still need to reach in and dig deep for a wide receiver. So if that is the case, then at 6'3" and 215 pounds, Odunze would be a big time get for the Chicago Bears, and that would be actually an amazing opportunity. So then what happens there? Justin Fields gets sent to the Falcons in exchange for the number 43 pick, giving them a second round pick, and then a 6th round 2025 pick, and a 5th round. So they're looking for a move there. And with that number 43 pick, that's Chop Robinson, the defensive end from Penn State, still on the board at that time. So the potential exists for that move. And then you get Javon Bullard at number 75 at a safety position that goes to the 3rd round. And that would be replacement or potential replacement for Eddie Jackson. As a rookie, I think you really have to dump, by the way, Eddie Jackson, $18 million salary for a declining player who's over 30. That's just doesn't make sense for you can't do this. Like, the Bears are going to have to let Eddie Jackson go, even though they're keeping it close to the vest. Seems like it would be one opportunity to I don't know if you're upgrading the position with Javon Bullard, but it seems like an opportunity to go ahead and release Eddie Jackson and move on. And you save, I want to say, about $13 million in cap space when you move on from Eddie Jackson, which allows you to bring in a new safety at a discounted rate. Eddie Jackson is a little too expensive for the position, or at least we should be able to agree that with the declining skill set and the age being a factor, and the injuries and the amount that it costs, it would be reasonable to assume that it's time to move on from Eddie Jackson. Also, we have another mock draft here saying that the Chicago Bears will give Justin Fields a huge vote of confidence, and the Chicago Bears will swap the number 1 pick with the Patriots, and they will at number 3, the Bears bring home the guy many fans are longing for. This is the guy that everybody wants. This is Marvin Harrison Jr. So we're going to make a trade, which, again, I didn't make this up, but it seems like people have the consensus here that, New England Patriots are going to take a deal. We'll get the number 3 pick, and then we'll get a pick in the 2nd round, and then we'll get a 3rd round pick, and then a 2025 1st round pick. and a second-round pick. So potential certainly exists for a good trade. That's stockpiling draft picks. Those are good draft picks, by the way. And with that, we take Marvin Harrison Jr. With DJ Moore already on this offense and a bona fide number one receiver, Fields' arsenal just got a whole lot scarier. A 6'4" monster of a man who has elite speed, leaping ability, hands, catch radius, and can run every bit of a complete route tree. This is a game-changing wide receiver. If you have the opportunity to pick him up and you're not desperate for a quarterback, and the Bears are not desperate for a quarterback, then this is the play. There is no secondary play. Now, you can still make your arguments for Caleb Williams, and I respect those arguments because I'm not opposed to Caleb Williams. But you are talking about a generational athlete where, look, if Marvin Harrison, if Caleb Williams does a great job next year, then you can, and you take Justin Fields. If Marvin Harrison, if Caleb Williams has a great year next year and Justin Fields is only mediocre, then you can kick yourself. But you can kick yourself knowing that you have the generational talent of this draft and that you can go out and you can get yourself a quarterback. You can find a quarterback that can do what you want them to do. Can you get Caleb Williams back? Well, of course, you can't get Caleb Williams back, but you would have some options. How good are the Patriots going to be next year? If you make this move right here and you get the 2025 first round pick from the Patriots have the number 3 pick. How much better are they going to be next year? Maybe, just maybe, they're not better. Maybe, just maybe, they take Caleb Williams and he's only okay and they only win 3 games and you still have a top 3 pick next year. When you're building a team and in the top 3 picks there are here's, and by the way, these are the options so you guys can top QB 2025. Shadur Sanders is the number one, the prohibitive, probably number 1 pick. That's going to be this is the recruits. I meant to say NFL draft. That's going to be Shadur Sanders, Drew Aller, and Connor Weigman. So look at the grades here, by the way. Quarterback rating right now for Shadur Sanders, 91. Shadur Sanders' grade was 92 last week. So he graded out a point lower while not playing. So that's a little bit weird. But to remember here, Caleb Williams grades out as a 93 in 2024. You can go look, as a matter of fact, at the position rankings for the 2024 draft. Caleb Williams was, and I'm going to say was because I have no idea what these guys are going to do for quarterbacks in the 2024 draft. We've got Caleb Williams now grading out at 93.5. And then we've got Drake May at 91.6. Now, we're making an argument, by the way, that Drake May might be that guy and that we may end up with that guy, Drake May, and that he is a game-changing type player as well as Caleb Williams. And every bit the player, for some, grades out at 91.6. So if we were to defer this into next year, into the 2025 draft, and we're looking at quarterback, then you've got Shadur Sanders kind of clocking in about that level at this point. And Drew Aller not clocking in nearly as high. However, that could change given another year, and also for Connor Weigman. So there are some players that you could still go pick up. You're going to have Carson Beck, 6'4", 215 out of Georgia as the number 4 guy, probably moving up the charts, most probably. You've got Quinn Ewers out of Texas. By the way, listen to who we're talking about. Like, we're talking about some elite quarterbacks here. In fact, Jalen Milroe, probably not. He's had some accuracy issues. But then you have Tyler Van Dyke. Then you have Dilton Gabriel, Preston Stone. You have Riley Leonard, who was at Duke, now moved to Notre Dame. So you've got some really good quarterbacks coming out again next year. You're not out of anything if you make this move, and this move doesn't work out with Justin Fields. Just to give you guys an idea. Now, the next thing is to move down again, give the Jets the number 9 pick, and then you take the number 10 pick, and with that pick, you take Luatu Latu, because you now have your wide receiver, and it's time for you to take an edge rusher. And remember, I think we had a consensus pretty much that Luatu Latu was going to be a the best pure pass rusher in the draft. So taking him would be an almost no brainer. I would love to see Jared Verse. I do prefer Jared Verse, but look, I've been watching the tape on the Latu Latu, and I really like what I'm seeing. So Cedric Van Pran at center from Georgia. That's going to be that second round pick that you get at the number 34. Then you've got another pick a little bit later, and you've got defensive tackle Devondre Sweat. With the first pick in the third round, the Bears stay in the trenches but go for the defensive side of the ball this time. Texas, Devondre Sweat has no relation to Montez, but imagine having two Sweats on your team. That's going to be hilarious, right? In between the two of them, this Bears defensive line could be even better in 2024. He's a massive dude, 6'4", 362 pounds. He is one of the better run stoppers in this class, which allow him to fit right in with the last year's top run defense in Chicago. This is a player opposing defenses would be silly not to double team. That's the key right there, is getting the opportunity to double team and free up your resources so that they can get to the ball. And if he commands two people, then you've really got something right there. So potential. And then you have Kieran Emma. I don't even know who this guy is. Emma Gaji. I'm going to say that, and we'll stick with it until I know. Yale offensive tackle Kieran Emagaji. That could be an opportunity right there that you're looking at. How are you going to do with Braxton Jones? What's the move with Braxton Jones? So if that is the case, then maybe you create him as a backup. And if you keep Braxton Jones, you get rid of Larry Borum and get him off of the payroll and off of the roster because he's not helping anybody at this point. And then later on in the rounds fourth, you got Brevin Spanford, Marshawn Lloyd at running back. And by the way, the Bears have had a little bit of success right now at reaching deep in the draft and getting running back. So why not? Now, the other one is actually, that's it right now. So we've got that covered, and that wraps it up. So let's see what's happening with you raging psychos in chat. So we're going a little bit backwards here. Caleb Williams versus Arizona. You know what? We're going to start back here just a little bit here. Having MHG and DJ Moore is going to last for 4 years, 5 max, and that's exactly right. So any quarterback that you get that's going to allow you the opportunity to make this sort of team, that's fantastic. That's a fantastic opportunity for you as a team to have those two guys as the bookends. Marvin Harris Jr. versus Rutgers, 4 receptions, 25 yards. Hashtag game changing. And that would be fair. But you also can only catch what gets thrown to you. EcoBean, I don't know that if we go look at, and here's the good part. You can say that, and then we can actually go look at the stats, and we can go see how many times he was thrown to. MHJ Advanced Stats. So here we go, and we can look and see in the games how many receptions he had. Minnesota, 37-3. They won 37-3. He only had 3 receptions and 30 yards because he didn't have to do anything. They won 37-3. That's a silly argument. The argument would be in games that matter. At Rutgers, that would be 35-16, 4 receptions for 25 yards. And 2 touchdowns. You missed that part here. You were talking about this one. You said Rutgers. That's 2 touchdowns. Yeah, that is game changing. In fact, the guy scored 14 points. So he was responsible for most of their offense. And in fact, how many times did they throw the ball in that game? Let's go look. So when you say it's game changing, McCord threw 26 times and had 3 touchdowns. 2 of them were to Marvin Harrison Jr. If you run the ball and you have 22 carries, was it Tavion Henderson? If you have 22 carries from one of your running backs, and let's look, by the way, at the team stats to see exactly what it was that we really did overall. And it looks like the full box score says um, we only threw the ball 26 times, 19 receptions, and we had 22. We had 30 total rushes, and Travion Henderson had 5 catches uh, for no touchdowns, and Marvin Harrison had 4. So he was number 2 overall in receptions and had 2 touchdowns. So he was the guy that they relied on to get the ball into the end zone. So silly comparison, in my opinion. Now, you can have a different opinion. You're entitled to be wrong. You've been wrong before. But, that doesn't make any sense to say that, yeah, that doesn't make any sense. But let's go back here to the advanced stats one more time. And let's look at that Minnesota game. 3 receptions, 1 touchdown. Look, multiple touchdowns all the time. But going to the Minnesota game, we didn't do that. We should have gone to the Minnesota game. 37-3. Only threw the ball. Actually threw the ball 30 times, 2 touchdowns. And let's go look at the full box score and let's see who are we throwing the ball around to. We are throwing the ball to Emeka Egbuka, and they're passing it around to everybody. So Marvin Harrison Jr. had the best game. He had 3 receptions for 30 yards and a touchdown. Maybe you can make an argument that Cade Stover does. Emeka Egbuka had 5 for 83, so that would be fair enough. But also ran the ball 35 total times. So in a blowout win, how many snaps did you even have your number one guy in when you're winning 37-3? And piling up stats, by the way, that's not the way of Ohio State. It's about winning the game. It's not about piling up your stats so that you look good. That's why he won a Bolitnikov and nobody else did. So and look, you can disagree. Again, you've been wrong, so it won't be the last time. But when it mattered against number 7 Penn State, 11 receptions for 162 yards and a touchdown in a close game. Notre Dame, if you want to make an argument here, your argument should have been number 9 Notre Dame, 17-14, 3 receptions for 32 yards. That's the one, right? But he has 1,200 yards receiving for the season. So I don't know. And then you have in the Michigan game, 5 receptions when you need them, 118 yards and a touchdown. So, I mean, yeah, I don't know if there's some clarity in this. So yeah. So the running back was more valuable than MHJ. Yeah, on a running team, the running back is more valuable than the receiver. Yeah. And yes, even despite that, Bolitnikov Award winner as the best receiver, recognized by everybody in organized college football except you. They're right, by the way. So, yeah. And the whole thing is, sometimes in the rhythm of the game, you can make arguments like if he's up against a good cover guy, or he gets double teamed for the entire game, there are possibilities that he's being taken out of the game. But if he's taken out of the game with 2 players, or if he's double teamed constantly, then that means that somebody else is always open, and that's the guy that you throw to, and that's the advantage of having a Marvin Harrison Jr. And smart people know that. It's science, bruh. So there are situations in which, yeah, you're not going to see massive amounts of receptions. IU game right here is an example, 2 for 18 yards and nothing. Just did nothing in that game. Could be that we're like, well, what happened to Marvin Harrison? Well, maybe he's double teamed. I don't know. By the way, the answer. I'm guessing. By the way, so I'm just acting like I'm smarter than you. I'm not. But it would be. But dude, here we go. This is the answer of the year right here. Jordan Love's offensive line. Do you know I had somebody in here a few days ago trying to tell me that that the Chicago Bears were a much better offensive line than the Green Bay Packers? And then when I went and got the statistics and showed that the Green Bay Packers were a top 6 offensive line, that person left and ignored it and just like disappeared. It was unbelievable. I love those days. It's just wild. But yeah, yeah, um, this guy is the guy to get. Now, if it were my druthers, I will tell you who I would prefer. Malik Neighbors. Like, I think Malik Neighbors is every bit the player that in fact, let's go look at Malik Neighbors. He was every bit the player that Marvin Harrison Jr. was. Had superior stats, I think, when you look at it overall. He had 1,569 yards compared to Marvin Harrison Jr. He compares favorably in almost every way. Coming down the list here, in the big games, FSU 6 for 67 in a losing effort. Here he had 8 for 102. Here he had 6 for 146. Against Alabama, 10 receptions, 171 against the best players on the best team, or it should be reasonably expected that Alabama was one of the best teams in the league. They always are. So against one of the best teams, 10 receptions, 171, he is your go-to guy when you need when you need stuff. So I really like Malik Neighbors. I really think that he's every bit the player that Marvin Harrison Jr. was. Superior stats. Marvin Harrison had 67 receptions. Malik Neighbors had 89. Part of that, by the way, has to do with the scheme that they're running. So you could even look at some of these games, like for example, Wisconsin 35-31. He only had 3 receptions for 23 yards. Was he being double teamed? Coming down here and looking, you see 45 passes. And it's Newsmeyer because Jaden Daniels was not playing in the game. Jaden Daniels is the quarterback, or the normal quarterback. And this guy was coming in trying to win a game against a disinterested team. So maybe there's an argument to be made there. Or maybe they took him out early because they didn't want to get him injured. But anyway, Malik Neighbors would be my guy when it comes down to somebody that I would like to see. Um, so this is and there you go. Malik Neighbors has another first round draft pick on the opposite side of him. Potential. I think it's more second round. I think that we're probably looking more second round than first round. But I mean, guys, 89 receptions, 1,569 yards, 14 touchdowns, average catch of 17.6. That goes real favorably versus Marvin Harrison Jr., who clocked in with 67 for 12, 11, 14, and an average of 18.1. So these guys, and these guys, and by the way, let's take a moment here and let's look at Roma Dunzi so that we can get kind of an idea here. I think a lot of people really like the catch radius and everything that Roma Dunzi does. He was a workhorse, if you will. 92 receptions, 1,640 yards, 13 touchdowns, 17.8. I mean, put him in the running with all of these guys, like he was, he kind of fits in pretty well. Come over here and look at all that he did. Now, the question would be, obviously, are they big passing teams? What did he do in the big games? In the big games against Oregon, number 8 receptions, 128 yards, and 2 touchdowns. Came up big in a big game. Against USC, 5 for 82. Against Utah, 3 for 111 and 2 touchdowns. Against Oregon State, 7 for 106 and 2 touchdowns. Against Oregon in the semifinal game, 8 for 102. In the national championship here, in the it was number 3 Texas, 6 for 125, came up big. And then just look, I mean, they got annihilated by Michigan. You all respect to Michigan, you know what I mean? But I mean, this is a gigantic season right here. This is a gigantic season. Not as many touchdowns as the other two, but I mean, it's 1 touchdown differential. Malik was 17.6 yards on average. Roma Dunzi 17.8, and Marvin Harrison 18.1. I mean, they're all in that range. I mean, like this is an elite group of receivers that are coming out this year. And what I really like to see is Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors or Roma Dunzi. Get 2 of these guys and fix your wide receiving room for the next 4 to 5 years. 100%. You'll have the most elite receiving core potentially in all of football. And then the quarterback, as long as you have a good quarterback, and you got 2 offensive line coaches now working on this team. You got, everything is in place for you to be elite, absolutely elite. So, you know what I mean? But anyway, if you came in late, by the way, and you missed it, let me pull this back up on the screen here so you guys can see it. So I asked ChatGPT, what would Walter Payton say about Justin Fields? And we never know. We never know. And ChatGPT says, as an AI can't accurately predict what Walter Payton would say about a specific situation, especially one in a continually evolving field like football. However, based on his legacy and values, Walter Payton was known for his commitment to excellence, teamwork, and determination. He might emphasize the importance of patience in developing in young quarterbacks like Justin Fields, recognizing that it often takes time for quarterbacks to fully develop and reach their potential in the NFL. Payton might also highlight the values of continuity and stability within a team, suggesting that the Bears should focus on supporting and developing Fields. By the way, does this not sound like the press conference that Matt Eberflus and Ryan Poles had? And developing Fields rather than hastily moving on to another option like Caleb Williams. Ultimately, Payton might advocate for the Bears to carefully elevate their options, considering the long-term implications for the team's success rather than making impulsive decisions based on short-term performance or speculation. Now, I do want to say this. There are two highlight reels of Caleb Williams. One shows all the great plays that he makes. The other shows all the bonehead plays that he makes. So we do have to remember that there are two tapes of Caleb Williams. Then there is the disrespectful painting of the fingernails over UCLA, which, guys, I don't think that's really as bad a situation as one might think. I mean, that's just, rivalry week. You do rivalry stuff. You're expecting a kid to act like a grown man. That's silly. They're still kids. They're as close to 17 as they are to 25. You know what I mean? So, give them some slack on that. Crying to your mom. Hey, the guy thought he was going to win. The guy thought that he was going to come back and he was going to do something that nobody else did, and realizing that his team was going to let him down probably hurt. So, I think that if we just give this a little bit of time, we're going to get some clarity in the market. We're going to get some, we'll get some ideas about what happens next with this team. We'll get some ideas about what happens next in Chicagoland. But look, we've got an incredible opportunity. Kareem Slayton says, "Now, if this is your rank of talent along the lines, the only thing I would do is I would probably drop Brock Bowers down below a Dunzy and Neighbors, and I would swap Neighbors with a Dunzy because I really think that Malik Neighbors is just a tiny bit better. But that's splitting hairs. When you get to the NFL, what I'm saying may not. I just think in college, Malik Neighbors was a tiny bit better because he was better in the shorter route scheme and he has the ability to create more separation in shorter time frames, and Roma Dunsey just a little bit faster or a little bit further down the field. Like it's incredible that we're sitting here looking at this draft right now, and we can have that kind of discourse about these positions, and it's just so close to a lot of people. This is the draft, guys. At the end of this, we're going a long way, and it's going to be incredible. And I can't wait for us all to be sitting down, checking it out, and waiting to see how this just all develops. And by the way, just so you guys know, I got my hat. I'm gonna show you what it looks like. By the way, I'm gonna wear it tomorrow, but I got my Bear Down with Bleeves hat, so I'll be wearing it tomorrow on the live stream. I actually forgot to grab it today. Um, but so anyway, that's my time, guys. Thank you so much for tuning in. Make sure you hit the like button on the way out. If you would, another thing that helps me tremendously, since you guys are here, I'm going to close this stream off. If you would, leave a comment on the video and just make sure you hit the like button on the way out, just to say hi. Let me know what you think. What would you like to see covered more? Anything like that certainly helps me out. And then it pushes this up in the algorithm. So thanks a lot. You guys have